Hello. I hope you enjoyed the movie. We had a lot of fun putting this together. So this is now Actorspokee. This is our sit around talking about the movie segment. Tonight, I'm joined by Steve Connor, Chaldea's co-director, co-creator, co-writer, pretty much everything Chaldea related, and Sarah Moore, who's not only our social media princess and our podcasting manager, but is the dungeon master for this series of Aggee the Anumians. And also, I want to give a shout out to a couple of people I should have given a shout out at the beginning. Jimmy Duffy from Prater's Rejects is our tech for this particular stream and will be our tech for all of the viewing parties in this series. And also Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, Zoe, who has been is doing the production work in the studio for us for our other streams. So thank you also to them. All right, Sarah, Steve, whoa, what up?
Hi.
Hi. Well, that was easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So simple. Wow. Super simple.
Yeah, it was a tough edit. It's a tough edit. Yeah. Well, I don't know whether to be embarrassed about the things that didn't work or like super freaking proud of how much better it is than what we got in the stream.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of new stuff that we added for this one. So we were kind of at a big learning curve, I think, for this first episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in the gaming industry, you do play testing before you publish the game. You know, with Actoroke, we decide that our play testing is just going to be live.
It's the Actoroke way, really.
I love the Actoroke way.
We just dive in and hope that everything works out. And it did. It worked out.
Yeah. It did. Some of the sound balancing I didn't get to. I was sitting here with Ann Carlton while we were watching it, and I was sitting by her. I was very aware that some of her sound should have been much louder because she's got a great voice. And just some other things that we didn't get to. So it was a difficult 2 weeks, but I'm really happy we got to where we're at. I feel like it's going to get just better and better from here. And yeah. Well, I wanted to talk, given with the three of us here, I wanted for this first Actorspokee session to really kind of focus a bit on you, Sarah, and as the dungeon master for this series. Why don't you kind of walk us through what you're thinking and like what's going on in this story?
It's a big question. Yeah, so I knew going in that this story was going to need to have a 6-episode arc. And I am sort of used to either running like 3 episodes or like a campaign that takes a million years and is open-ended. So it's been a really interesting sort of shift for me to go, okay, I have 6 episodes to tell this story. And one of the things that I really like about Chaldea is the Anumians. I think that they're very cool. I think that the idea that like they can directly mess with people in their lives is a really fun device, especially as a dungeon master. It's immediate direct conflict, which I love. So I thought let's get that in there, as well as the fact that we have these beautiful fate cards, and I couldn't help myself. I was like, we're gonna use them. I'm gonna get in there, which created a lot of work for our delightful artist immediately, because we needed to have like an actual deck of fate cards. Thank you.
Well, the thing that's interesting is in Chaldea, I think it's probably important for people who may not know that our constellations in Chaldea are actually living entities.
Yeah.
So when she says Anumian, she's talking about these constellations that live in the sky at night. And they actually manipulate and lord over and do all kind of weird things and affect the lives of mortals in Chaldea. And so our whole entire calendar system throughout the entire year is based upon the Anumians. And Sarah's always like that. And then we have our version of a tarot deck. So we've been working on creating a tarot deck, and we actually made our first official one. Tanil did it. She made it at home. Someday it'd be nice if we can actually print those cards and, give them out to the world.
Sell them to the world.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we always had this idea. Maybe it's a Kickstarter someday, but
Maybe someday. I'd love it.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
so
what?
I just sort of like I've been using it as my personal playground. The map is sort of nebulous in its creation, which has been really fun because in episode
Yeah,
1 they said, "Hey, where do you want to go?" And I was like, "A lava swamp," and they were like, "Great, do whatever you want." So created this lava swamp, and I created a couple of creatures that are in it and statted them out, and then literally threw them at my players. It's been liberating in a really fun way, but also like you can do anything. And so it's sort of like the amount of choices has been very big for me. So I've been trying to like not do all of the ideas that I came up with in episode 1. Like, let's spread them out. I have 6 episodes. We can do more later.
and we're young. I mean,
And we're
many,
young.
who knows how many more episodes? Yeah, we like
6,000
to. We have a philosophy. Steve and I do. We call it JIT Dev, which is just in time development. Which
Yes.
our philosophy is don't overdevelop, because when you overdevelop, you create a bunch of stuff that has no relevance to the story you're trying to tell in the moment. It's just a bunch of stuff, and it's fun to go overboard on world development, but
Yeah.
we oftentimes too much development creates constraints that are there for no good reason. And so keep just develop just beyond the horizon of where the characters are at.
Sure. Just off the edge of the screen is where I've developed to. Anything beyond that is nothing. We'll see.
It's like John Malkovich says, if it's not in the lens, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Well, Peter, you intentionally set the first series in Samaria, which is sort of like most furthest away from civilization. I think they have a great line in Star Wars about Mos Eisley, how far away it is from the center of the galaxy. Right, that's sort of where Graver's Dig's located, and we made the decision that the first series and every series thereafter would all be based in Graver's Dig. And I think what's cool is, especially since there's an acting part of this, we have these actors we love to work with. Peter always says his favorite time is when he's working with actors.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if we place it in Graver's Dig and we stay there and we keep developing the stories from there, then we can bring those same characters back as NPCs, or even some of the PCs from earlier seasons back. And that's actually our big goal. There's going to be lots of, already we have stuff from series 1 in, well, not to mention Aggee. Anybody who watched series 1 knows Aggee was an NPC in series 1, and now he's a PC.
Yeah. And we've been doing little nods. The Tunnel Terror babies are running around now.
So the Tunnel Terrors, for anybody who missed series 1, we had an episode where we told our amazing artist, and I love it, say, why don't you just draw a monster live while we're streaming the RPG, and I'll make up stats for it on the fly. And so she came up with this burrowing spider creature, and I statted it out. Almost killed the party. Thankfully, didn't quite. And but then they killed the Tunnel Terror, and they went in and found all these eggs. But then they took these eggs back to Graver's Dig and sold them to Brandy Stefano, who played by Stefan Picorni. And so now there's a Tunnel Terror infestation of little baby Tunnel Terrors who are like coming up through the woodwork everywhere.
I'm sure that won't be a problem in future episodes or seasons. I'm sure
they're just going to get bigger and bigger. That's all.
Then never, the funny thing about player characters, you have no idea, especially the extremely talented ones. We're lucky we have great talent. Somebody had saw the Tunnel Terror piece of art on the map and said, "Oh, that's Gary."
Yeah.
And then this whole Gary thing happened where like a grandfather clock, every hour Gary like howls and tells people of Graver's Dig the time of day.
Yeah. It turned into meet me in 2 Gary calls over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. Anyway.
Well, they fixated it on the map. I was like, look at this map. This is where you are. And they were like, what's that guy? I was like, don't worry about that guy. That guy's not where you are right now. It's not a big deal. And they were like, well, I need to know about him. So
I have a question. I have a question for you, Sarah. So, what we just watched the movie with the actors playing the characters now, but you as Dungeon Master, you're interfacing more regularly with the players who are the RPG, tabletop RPG players who are created these characters and
Yes.
who are playing them. So I wonder maybe you walk us through the characters and like what you like about the characters, any spoilers you have in mind about the characters, and your thoughts about the acting for the characters. I mean, we'll get to ask the players later, but
sure. Yeah. I think that the actors were all like just slightly different than I interpreted them, because I saw our four, like, Stefan plays Helios very quietly. He's a very like sort of introverted kind of like almost meek character unless he is raging. And Andy is never meek at all. There's no meek in Andy. And I could see them both like really well. Like, I think they both really fit Helios, but they're just like, it's just a different interp, which I think is really interesting. I love that Helios is afraid of everything. It's a gift to a GM because I can just like, are you scared of that too? Make a note. I have a running list of what Helios is afraid of that I can just like throw at them if things aren't spicy enough in a scene, and just throw in one of Helios's phobias. Rainbow, there's a bunch of stuff that we didn't get to do with Rainbow because of time constraints and the fact that we had to like, cut things down because it wasn't part of our main storyline, which I totally understand. The difference between writing a book and making a movie. So you cut out some of that stuff. But Rainbow's whole backstory with her bees and at the circus and all of the other halflings that are named after colors and like the bit that we did with the mime and Helios during the first episode was very funny to me. And like Anne is Megan cranked up to 11 at all times. And so it's really fun to see, like, they both embrace the joy of that Rainbow has kind of in everything. But it's like we just like cranked her up. We're just like, here we go. This is Rainbow at peak performance. And then in contrast, I think Lexi and Jasmine were very like much more understated character. Like they're more quiet and they're more thinky and are more perhaps aware of their own mortality, and so are a little bit further from the fight. They're like, they want to fight, but like from back here, if I can, I'll just lob a thing. I'll be very, you guys are doing good up there in the front lines. And so it's very fun to have them sort of pulled back.
But by the way, I'm interjecting here. Didn't she literally like every time she cast a spell, she would like step back 60 feet?
How many feet can I move during this? I'm going to move backwards. Yeah, she ended up like so far away from the fight itself that she was like, hey, we good over there? Okay.
That was good. How do we get to film that with? She just kept going further and further.
Back up. And then Aggee, it's interesting, I think, to see Bernard play Aggee, because I was still very used to how Tavjan played Aggee, and so to have a different incarnation of him is very cool. I think he's how I pictured him, but without Tavjan's face. I don't know how to like because we only saw this much of him when we were doing season 1, and so like to see him as a full realized person is very fun. I have like a soft spot for all of the characters, and I also, for no reason whatsoever, did gather some formative memories of them in case I have to do bad things to them. So
perfect.
And just giggling in the background of your
Anne and Stefano are here with me. It's a big party. So So Steve, I mean, you're kind of in this interesting position of sort of equidistant from both the RPG and the movie, in the sense that you take a look at the RPG really closely and the footage from it, maybe even more closely than I do, and live in that space and translate it into a script. Sarah lives at the DMing table. I'm living in as a director with the actors, and
Steve is the bridge.
Yeah. So how are you seeing these characters? Like, do you have some ideas of what these characters, what you hope these characters will struggle with, like their arcs? As a screenwriter, you're always searching for there's a narrative arc, that the story arc that Sarah has to work with, but I'm sure you're thinking about these personal arcs for these characters.
Well, that's certainly true. The issue though is I don't have, and I think you said this in series 1, we don't really have any control where the player decides they're going to go.
Right.
As a writer, a screenplay writer, a novelist, you sit down and you map out how you want your character to go and grow over time or whatever. And this is sort of like, I don't know what craziness they're going to do next week. So I always try to latch. Yeah, Sarah mentioned earlier with Helios, being afraid of everything, it's phobias. That was great. I mean, it's pretty clear to me watching the RPG that it's like, okay, we really got to make sure that the phobias come through. I just thought the other part I thought was super funny, which is not a main character, but I thought the alewife, the person who owned the bar, just the fact that nobody knew her name, and every time somebody said something, and they must have spent 40 minutes in game time throwing different names at her. I'm like, okay, clearly that has to be in. So I don't. Obviously, I think that with Helios, is he going to overcome his fears? That seems like an ongoing an arching part of the 6 episodes. Aggee, obviously, he started off in series 1 as just a guide. And so, he wants to move up and become, hunter or graver. So I see him wanting to prove himself more than just being, some guy who running around the streets looking for, the next job. And so, the other characters, I mean, I'm sort of in a wait and see sort of mode, because in episode 2, literally it's something that I didn't even expect that could just completely go off. Mm-hmm. And then like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're all going to drop from a fate deck, right? So they're all, who knows what's going to happen in this deck. Well, we know a little bit, those of us who watch the RPG, and this bears some mentioning. If you watch the RPG session, you might have noticed that we played a little bit into what happened in the tent at the end of the movie you just saw. But we didn't include it in the movie. We played into it a little bit because, Sarah can't just ad lib the meaning of all the cards that they drew. So it's like, okay, draw the cards real quick in this RPG session. And then in the next session, we're kind of going to back up and role play out the drawing of the cards. And that'll be a big moment because that's going to be what really drives the story going forward.
Yeah. Because we did a true blind draw of the deck. Like we didn't manufacture anything. So I did love that one of them drew artisan.
That's crazy.
It was so.
That's just fate. I just find that so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of the theme of the entire series.
Yeah, and we definitely that was definitely not planned. We shuffled it. Tanel shuffled it up really good, and then they each went and drew one, and
55 cards.
Artisan
drew artisan. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool.
It's cool.
Also, I love the band. And all their stupid instruments that they all chose. And I let them choose at the table, which I should not have probably but they weren't all like approved kind of like we're working off of a D&D skin here. And so like technically like you get the theremin is not an approved D&D instrument, but I thought it was hilarious. And so I said, yes.
Perfect.
That hurt my head when it came time to writing the script.
No, it's perfect though. We just said it's a fantasy. It's sort of electrical. It's fantasy. And
I had like
and
frantic text messages from Steve that was like, "What are you doing to me? Why would you do this?"
Do you know how big these things are and they run on
They need to be
electricity?
plugged in and like whatever.
So clearly they're magical. So now we're giving them a magical item that they're carrying around.
Oh, come on, Steve. Give me a break. You never cared about giving too many magical items out to players.
When I'm DM'd.
But this is a handheld theremin, you know. You just like
one.
you know. And I said I in Bandersnatch, Bandersnatch literally created the theremin in Chaldea Studios from scratch, like the night, like leading up to the film shoot. Like they were finishing it up right before we shot that episode.
Thank you, Sean and Damon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Sean.
Anybody watching needs to. The theremin is sort of a rare thing. I mean, I don't know. A lot of people know what it is. They should go look it up. It's pretty funky.
It's wild. You interrupt the flow of electricity and it makes noise, which was fun to play at the table because they just all kept doing it, and I got to be a theremin, which I'm sure will not be the last time that happens at the game table during this arc.
There was a magical moment when Megan is the player for Rainbow and the theremin was like doing this, and Sarah was having to, and then Megan would change it how she was interacting with the theremin, and Sarah, as the DM, was making the sounds of the theremin and having to ad lib. Oh, it was really nice.
Yeah, I am a professional, so I don't know what sort of training I did to mimic a theremin, but there you have it. I did it.
But yeah, welcome. Went out and sourced all the. I found an oud that Badia was playing. The oud was from a secondhand store. It had no strings, so we might like try to put some strings on it. That's how I got it cheap. And then we got a mouth harp, and then we got the recorder. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that hard to go out and get instruments. And then for the performance, you just play some random song that you get rights to. And
yeah.
So Peter, you got to tell us. This is the first time that you've filmed this way in a studio in front of a green screen. But then afterwards, you had to do you're the first time you've ever had to use green screen, adding the whole
thing.
Everybody should know that Peter's literally never done that. He only had 2 weeks to do the whole thing, learn how to do it.
Usually when I have one make, thankfully I lined this up with Thanksgiving. I kind of knew it was probably going to be a hassle. And so I lined it up so that, Thanksgiving off, so I actually had 2 weeks instead of the one. But yeah, we had, it was a lot of firsts for me as an editor, because I'm not really, I'm not really that good of an editor. I'm learning it. This was my gift to myself during COVID, is I learned how to do video editing. And I'd never done green screen editing. And the green screen work, if you watch it, I admit it, there's some artifacts and stuff, some shimmers and stuff like that. The green screen.
It's just magic. Yeah.
I found out I did an online tutoring session with a tutor, but it was like last night. And he's like, "Oh, your entire workflow was wrong for doing green screen work with multi-camera to fix this." He's like, "I don't know how you're going to fix this in time, and anyways, so we also had to ADR. The sound was bad. We had to ADR all the lines from all the actors. Like every actor had to come back into the studio and do some ADR. But hey, we learned. And so next time we won't have to do that. We'll fix those problems, and then new problems will crop up, and then we'll fix those. And it'll be that's
fun.
right. And Tanel Lovett had to do some map paintings for the green screens. And she was like, kept asking me questions and saying, "I think I'm going to do this. What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." like just like, but it all worked out. Like, the map paintings all worked out just fine. The green screen, everything worked out. It could be better, but I love it. It's fun.
There will be a progression. We're building to bigger, better. That's what
That's
we're doing.
Right.
We'll get towards the end of the series and we'll be feeling pretty good about ourselves. And Peter goes, "Hey, Steve, I've got this idea."
Yeah, series 3 is going to be, I don't know, like filmed on the moon or something ridiculous. Like
there's only 3 of us, right?
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
I do have an idea, actually.
Of course he does. Of course you do.
No, I have an idea for like a one shot, like just like a whole weekend of miniatures gaming. Maybe we get Stefano and Norm Forge things going on, and just do a big fucking oops. That was our one F-bomb for tonight.
PG-13.
Yeah. Yay! One F-bomb. I got it in. Usually John Bishop's not here. Usually it's
there you go.
No, I was thinking like I have this urge to do like just a big fight scene for like an entire weekend, like outside the storyline, just like. And so the idea I have is like maybe a bunch of Setites show up with a small army to to punish everybody in the pyramid bar, right? So we could just have a big fight scene at the pyramid bar. That would be fun.
I mean, this is like it's like Flugeldorf, but with Setite troops instead of orcs.
Yeah. So we have Setites and just have a lot of miniatures. It'd be kind of fun anyway.
Great.
That's an idea. Yeah,
we'll do it. Let's do it. What are you doing tomorrow? Let's just do it.
Well, no. Right now, stay on target. Stay on target.
Sorry. Right.
All right. S more. Stay on target.
I'm trying.
All right.
I'm back.
So what's happening next week?
Oh, some stuff. Yeah, there's going to be
get the band back together. Literally, pardon the pun.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So, everybody already knows that we're going to be going into more depth about what the quests are that they got from these fate decks, from the fate deck draw. And we're gonna bring back a familiar face NPC, and then hopefully they won't die.
Yes. Let's say who that is. Alayla Blue Eran-Banahi, who's has worked on every Chaldea film ever made, and films before that, even with Steve and I, is going to play the role of Ninsunu. Yeah, next week. So
that'll be fun.
Well, that'll be in the actors version after that. So
yeah.
All right.
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. Let's leave it at that. That's fine. Let's leave it at that.
You all have to come and see it, is what I'm saying. Just come back here next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Gilding Light. And then you can watch the RPG session unfold.
Good idea.
I'll be there.
Oh, all right. Well, that concludes episode 1 of Aggee and the Anumians, an Actoroke series set in the world of Chaldea. And please follow us, like us, share us, etc. at World of Chaldea. And again, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Gilding Light. And everything, all of our videos are uploaded to YouTube, youtube.com/World of Chaldea. So come see us there and come tell your friends. And go ahead, Sarah.
Can I plug my stuff?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah. Yes, please. I'm out of practice, aren't I?
That's okay.
Yes, Sarah. By the way, Sarah, why don't you tell people who you are and where you found on the internet and anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sarah Moore. I am mostly here in Chaldea World, but you can also find me on Facebook at Actor Sarah Moore. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Ko-Fi and TikTok at Pixies and Pins. I also have a show called Sarah's Table every Friday night on twitch.tv/levelup_TTV at 6 p.m. Eastern. And this coming Friday, we are going to be doing a puppet episode where I have 4 puppets.
Your favorite.
My favorite. 4 puppets who come on and they play Feast of Legend, which is the Wendy's RPG, because it was our Thanksgiving episode. So it was all about food. There's a lot of shenanigans and my head maybe explodes a little. So that'll be super fun. So you should definitely come see that. Otherwise, you can find me right here on Wednesdays.
That's right.
Yeah.
Steve, where can you be found on social media?
You can't find me. I'm a hermit.
He's a ghost.
All I do is just work on Chaldea. That's it.
That's it. All right. And I am Peter Adkison. I'm on Facebook as Peter Adkison. I'm also recently started doing TikTok. So I am posting videos on TikTok as World of Chaldea. So I was inspired by Patrick Keefe. Shout out for Patrick and also Lexi the First, for my mentors on that. And But that's about it, other than all the Chaldea stuff, which we already talked about. So,
And
all right.
aren't you playing with Stefan in something?
I play with Stefan regularly, but we just had a game. I don't know when the next one is. So
It might be January, February.
January, February. Yeah, I play regularly with Bingo Shortwick, Luke Gygax, and in Stefan Picorni's world, and DM and Carlton, who plays Darcy. Marcy.
Marcy.
I'm gonna get
Darcy's twin, Marcy.
Right. All right, and again, thanks, Jimmy. This concludes episode 1 of Aggee and Anumians, an Actoroke series set in the world of Chaldea. Good night.